Hi, Kathy here from Kathy's Cute Creations. Today I'm going to show you how to mark fabric. If you don't have a rotary cutter, you can use scissors to cut it out. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to mark that 1/4 inch so you can begin making your blocks. I'm going to show you how to mark it with a couple of different tools. So let's get started. Now, to begin with, when you go to cut it out with your scissors, you need your scissors. These are not the paper scissors now, these are your fabric scissors. I'm going to show you the friction pin to mark it and the pencil. Keep in mind that no matter which way you do it, if you use this pencil to begin with, you want to continue using this same pencil because the points are different sizes, and that's going to determine your block. Now let me show you what I mean by cutting it out. Remember now, you're going to keep this is my scrap of fabric that I'm going to demonstrate on, so it's just a scrap. It's not a full yard or anything. I went ahead and I've got my ruler so that it comes off both ends. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this blue one. Now the friction pin, which is what this is, remember this, when the heat hits it, this disappears. So we don't want to mark with it to sew, as our sewing line, but we can mark with it, like right now, to cut. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to straighten my fabric up. Now remember, we're going to pretend that we don't have a rotary cutter, so we're going to be using a scissors. And I'm going to show you what this looks like here to give you an idea. And then I'll show you how it disappears over here at the iron also. Let's see if we can see that on the camera. See the line right there? Okay, so you can barely see it there, but when it comes time to cutting it, you can see it. And all you're doing is trying to go straight on the line. If you don't believe that you can be straight on the line, you can stay on the right-hand side of the line. The point is, you want to do that for everything you cut out, because then you're going to be measuring your 1/4 inch line. So let's say that this is how it turned out. Let me fix the corner here. Just for an example, let's pretend this is how you ended up cutting it. And you can see here, you can barely see my little line right there, because I stayed on the right-hand side. Now, that's not wrong for you to cut your fabric like that. That's fine. Then when you go to cut your next piece, now we're going to go ahead and pretend this was that rail fence, just like the very first block. So we need a 4.5 by 1.5. So I'm going to measure 4.5 in. I'm going to use this little 6-inch ruler here. I'm going in 4.5. Going to put my ruler down. Remember, you're going to hold your ruler so that it doesn't move. And you're going to use this same pen here, because this is the one you started with. We're going to go ahead and we're going to mark it just like this. And this is how you're going to do it too if you don't have a rotary cutter and all you have is scissors. This is how they used to do it a long time ago. Exactly. This is actually how I learned how to do it when I first learned how to quilt. Let me bring this over here. Let's see if you can see that line. Here's the other line. You can just see it right on the edge. See, I stayed right on the right of that line. So when I cut this next piece, I have to do the same thing. Cut it out. And as you can see here on the left, you can't see it, but if you look over here on this fabric that I cut it off, there's the line. So I've made it so that the line stays to the right. Then I'm going to cut my 1.5 inch. Let's mark it first. Now I am squaring up this other side. If you use your mat, for example, I'm using the bottom here when I squared it up, and if you use your mat, then you need to continue to use your mat, because it also is your tool, and you want to use the same thing all the time so that your measurements come out right. It's okay if your block ends up being a little bit bigger, because we can always cut it down. The problem is if it becomes too small, you can't make it any bigger once it's small. We can add to it, but you're not adding to your block, you're adding like a sash. And now we would come in and do 1.5, and we would measure it with that same. So I take 1.5, measure it, and mark it. Okay, so here's the fabric you realized Oh my gosh, I marked 1 3/4 instead of 1 1/2. Now, since you didn't use a pencil on this, you used the friction pen. Like I said, as soon as you put that iron on it, that line goes away. Now you can take this back over and draw the line again. Pieces that we used. Let's say we got it cut out. These are the 4 pieces I have left over from my block of the month, my first block. I had them all cut out. And then what you would do is you would flip them over, because you're going to have to flip everyone over because you want to mark on the wrong side of your fabric, because you're sewing on the wrong side of your fabric. And you want to be able to see the lines. We're going to start with this one right here. And what you do, take your small little ruler. I'm going to use a pencil so that I don't lose my mark. And let me see if I can show you. I need to move up a little bit more so that it shows up on camera. Okay. The first little notch is an 1/8. The next one is a 4th. Let me move it up a little bit here. And then what you do, which I did, is I put a little mark right there, which represents that 1/4. I go down here to the other end and I do the same thing. It's right there, but you can barely see it. That's the 1/4 inch I put right there. Ruler right up against your marks, as you can see mine. And there's that 1/4 inch up and down. And you would put it on both sides, the right side and the left side of each piece of fabric. Now here they are, totally marked. I put them up here on this design board so it'd be easier for you to see. Now I'm going to take them over there to the sewing machine. I'm going to show you how I pin them all together. Now the way that they used to teach it to me is you took your 2 pieces of fabric, good size facing each other. You stuck your pin, let's see if you can see it here, on the line that you drew. And when you stuck it on there, you looked in the back to see if it went through. If it did, which this one did, then you pinned it right there. You went to the other end and you did the same thing. You stick it in the line that you drew, and it comes out the other side exact. That meant that you've got them both on a 1/4 inch right there. So when you sew it, you're going to be sewing on the line on this side, and you're going to be sewing on the line on that side. Let's go ahead and do that, and we'll take a look at it. We do not need to be locking any of our seams. And if you can see, I went right over that line. When you turn it over, it's over that line. And there's your 1/4 inch. So there's no guesswork about you trying to figure it out. You went ahead and drew it on your fabric. So right there, you know that you've got a 1/4 inch on that. So like I said, go ahead, and if you don't have a rotary cutter, go ahead and mark your fabric. Even if you have a rotary cutter, you can go ahead and mark your fabric anyway if you're still a little leery about that 1/4 inch. I hope this has helped you all that haven't started yet for fear of cutting into your fabric and ruining it, and that you take a little leap there and get some faith in yourself and go ahead and get your block started. Good luck with your blocks. See you next time. Bye-bye.